There you go. Okay. I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the Genoa Township Board of Zoning Appeals. It is June 27th, 2023, 7:02 p.m. We're at the Genoa Township Hall, 5111 South Old 3C Highway, Westerville, Ohio, 43082. We have two items on the agenda tonight. BZA case 2023-07, which is an area variance for 7520 Dusty Pines Drive. And then we have another case, BZA case 2023-08, which is also an area variance at 9900 Meadowbrook Lane. We have staff present, Susan Dortch and Paul Benson. And I will call the roll. Mr. Hanson.
Here.
Mr. Boone.
Here.
Mr. Christian.
Here.
Mr. DeRose.
Here.
Okay, we have Mr. Phillips and Mr., Miss Yu absent. I want to read the following statement into the record. As is the adopted policy of the Board of Zoning Appeals, all applicants will be granted an opportunity to make their formal presentation. The audience will then be granted an opportunity to comment, followed by questions from the board. This policy was adopted by the Board of Zoning Appeals to provide for the orderly discussion of business scheduled for consideration. The chairperson, me, may limit repetitive debate. The first item that we need to consider are the minutes from the prior meeting held on May 23rd, 2023. I'll give you a moment to look over those minutes, and then I will entertain a motion to approve.
I'll move.
Is that Bob?
Yes,
Is that
I'll
you?
move.
Okay. And then second?
I'll second.
Okay. All right. Any revisions, corrections, anything that anyone has? Any discussion? All in favor of approval of the minutes from May 23rd, 2023, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. At this time, I will open the public hearing for the area variance. The first item on the agenda, which is 7520 Dusty Pines Drive. All those that are here to speak on this matter, please stand and raise your right hand so you can be sworn in. We don't charge extra. Are you sure? Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Great, thanks. Because you know what happens. The reason I say that is because we'll get going and then somebody will have a comment and they weren't sworn in and we have to stop everything and do it, just so you know. Okay. All right, let me read the application into the record. Oh, I'm going to murder this. John J. Mikas, is that right? Whoa, okay. It's going to be a good night. The third, requesting approval of a variance to construct an accessory building within the required 75-foot front yard setback at 7520 Dusty Pines Drive, Lot 1362 in the Dusty Pines subdivision, currently zoned rural residential, RR, and this is BZA case 2023-07. The legal notice for this hearing was printed and published on June 7th, 2023 in the Delaware Gazette and posted at the Genoa Township Hall on June 2nd, 2023. An attempt to mail notice of this hearing to property owners contiguous to and across the street from the subject property were also made, and we are admitting the following exhibits A through D into evidence, including the legal notice, the sign-in sheet, application, staff report, dated June 23rd, 2023. And by the way, while I'm thinking about it, anyone that's here to appear on either one of the cases, please sign in at the sign-in sheet in the back. So we will start with the staff report. Susan?
Thank you, Mark.
Oh.
So as noted in the legal notice, the address of this property is 7520 Dusty Pines. It's lot 1362 in the Dusty Pines subdivision. The lot is 1.25 acres. It's zoned rural residential. The plat for the Dusty Pines subdivision was recorded in July of 1985. Zoning permit W9150 was issued for construction of the dwelling on the subject property on October 9th, 1991. We did not locate any additional permits for the property, and there are no additional structures currently on the property other than the dwelling. According to the Delaware County Auditor site, the property was purchased by the applicant in July of 2022. Prior to the variance application, staff had several conversations with Mr. Mikas concerning where he wanted to place his accessory building and the requirements for the rural residential zoning district setbacks. So the variance being requested is from section 1609.01A, which is states that no accessory building shall be erected within any required front yard setback of the principal building. And the required setback in the rural residential district for the front yard is currently 75 feet. The applicant is requesting permission to build a 24 by 24 foot outbuilding that would encroach into that required 75-foot setback.
Looks like it's 46%.
Yeah. Staff did make a comment that the application did not have a specific distance from the accessory building to the property line along Worthington Road. And I've had some discussion with the applicant, and he's going to be prepared to address that this evening.
Good.
A copy of the variance was sent to Police, Fire, and Maintenance Department. Police and Fire responded. Neither department had any concerns. We did receive a few emails concerning the variance request. The ones that we received before staff memo was sent out, you have copies of, and then I think we received one additional one after that, and you have a copy of, you were emailed copies of that. You also have paper copies.
And they were all supported, the application, as I recall.
I believe so.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay. Anything else? Any questions for staff? Anybody? No? No? Let's hear from the applicant. And you can either stand at the podium, sit at the table, whatever's most comfortable for you. And
Do you want to sit here? Stand here?
yeah, we'll make this as painless for you as we
Okay,
can.
thanks.
How's that?
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. First, I'd like to thank y'all for the opportunity to present this variance request. When we purchased the home, we came from a very rural area where this type of thing it wasn't an issue ever. And so anyway, I'm being schooled in how it all works now.
Welcome to Genoa Township.
Amen. And I'd also thank the people that supported me, and other neighbor Jerry's also here for their support. And most of all, I'd like to thank Susan, because I think I probably should have been paying her salary for the last month of how many times I had to stop up and try to get this whole thing cleared up. And so it was really kind of confusing for me, never having done it before, but
Sure.
hopefully.
Most people that sit in that chair haven't done it before. So, and I understand that.
Not only have I not done it before, I haven't witnessed it being done before, so that's.
I totally understand that.
Okay, so anyway, the issues as far as the percentage of the setback, where initially we were talking about 46%, whatever. The confusion on my part, which we just cleared up recently, was where exactly is the road right-of-way? And we didn't even know for sure whether it was a county road or it was a township road in that section of Worthington, but we do have, in essence, because our lot is on the corner, we have 2 front yards as far as zoning is concerned. And I don't know if the pictures of our lot indicate, but there really isn't
Oh, I see.
any other place.
Do we have that we can put up? Do we have the overhead, Paul? Thank you. There you go.
Yeah, that part of it. And so when we finally clarified where the road right-of-way was, we are, that would be our property line. We're, the building, and after it's completed, if it's completed, would be 32 feet from that property line. Now, while that seems like a significant amount, as far as a percentage that I'm asking for, as far as the variance is concerned, the way the lot is designed, there's a mound. I don't know if there's a picture of the house. In your packet, I'm sure there's a picture of the house. The road is it's mounded up, and there's also a row of trees across the top. And, okay, and so they, in all honesty, when I went and spoke with my neighbors about the variance, and I was actually got to look at it from their point of their vantage point, you can't even see our house, and you wouldn't see this building. I'd say after it's completed, if it's completed, that there would be, you wouldn't even notice the difference, but that's, you know, looking from across Worthington Road.
So it'll run adjacent to Worthington Road as opposed to between you and the neighbor, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And the part of the problem, the high percentage of the variance that I'm requesting is because our house is actually 15 feet inside that 75-foot setback.
Oh, so you're only 60 feet from the actual lot line then?
Exactly.
Okay.
So that, because of that, and because of the only, like I said, the way the lot, it rolls down to actually into Jerry's property, it rolls down into a swale, and there would be nowhere else to put it, unless we put it right in front of our house, and which would probably be too close to the neighbor on the other side.
You can't, I don't mean to interrupt you, so.
No, go ahead.
But sometimes it helps if I ask questions.
Sure.
So you're not, and you can't put it behind the house?
No, the property actually drops off. We have a basement entryway, and
Oh,
so it
okay.
drops down.
Which
Where
you
it's-
can't really see from, I
Right.
think that's what this is
There's
supposed to show.
there's
but-
this-
Yeah,
that-
that
that-
one. Yeah, back up one, Paul. There you
Yeah.
go, that
And you
one.
can see, had I taken the picture a little bit more to the right, you'd
And
see
so
how it just
That's
drops.
Worthington Road on the left side.
That is
then.
correct.
Okay. I
That's
gotcha.
correct. That's correct.
Okay.
And it drops. Well, you can see that it's a ranch house, but it has a full basement
I was gonna say, you have a walkout
and a
basement there.
walkout,
Okay,
correct.
I got you.
So that's why we're, and then so there's really no,
So essentially, it's going.
right on that existing, just a little bit beyond that existing asphalt pad that was there when we got,
So,
when I purchased
just
the
to
house.
clarify, right here is where you're gonna build it, but over here is
Correct.
Worthington Road.
That's correct. And it's gonna go just to the right of the existing garage.
Right.
Okay.
What size garage are you gonna build?
It's a
You wanna
20,
build?
well, it's a 24 by 24. Our existing garage, my standard joke when we purchased the house was that if I put a bumper sticker on the front of my truck and a bumper sticker on the back bumper, that I probably couldn't close my garage door. So it's, and, you know, we have other pieces of equipment in kayaks and rototillers and all, and so it's just a real,
Is it essentially a 20 by 20 then?
just squeezed 20 by 20, correct. I don't know who thought
Now,
that
I'm
was a
not
crazy.
giving you the dimensions, but I'm just.
No, that's
speculating.
that's just about exactly right.
Okay. Okay. Right, well, okay, I see. And so it doesn't impact any of the other properties
No,
in
it does not.
along
Mm-mm.
Worthington?
No, that, like I said, because of that mound, the nature of the mound and the trees actually on the mound, it's invisible from when I went to speak with the neighbors the Worthington neighbors on the other side of the street from us.
Oh, uh-huh.
We, you know, we did a.
You probably have a couple of houses across Worthington that would face the side of your house.
Right, and,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, well, you can see where the driveways come in. You can see where the
Oh,
drive.
yeah.
You can
Oh,
see
but
where
they're
the drive.
really set back though, aren't they?
Yeah, they're set, and they're
okay.
set way, way back, yeah, so.
Yeah, I see. Okay. Okay. What year was the house constructed, do you know?
91, I believe, yeah, so
I'm
that's,
surprised it's in the easement like that, considering,
I don't
I mean,
know
we
when-
see older ones that are like that.
right, and I don't know when that changed.
Okay.
And when we did purchase the house, not that this, you know, we say ignorance is no excuse for not knowing, but when we did purchase the house, I don't know if you recall what the housing market was doing last July. Maybe it still is, I don't know, I stopped looking, but, okay, so we had actually 45 minutes to look at our house.
Oh, I'm surprised you had that long.
Well, the next crew was already working in when we came in, and we had to make a bid that day.
Sure.
And
Doing 10 others. I'm
Yep, and that's exact, there were several others, and in our 45 minutes, not understanding this setback business, and our side yard being the front yard and whatever it is, that was part of our 45-minute discussion. This would be a perfect spot to put this, you know, a building that would be able to, you know, to house some of the things that would, and to keep them safe and not parking out in the open and things like that. That's one of the things we're trying to avoid if we can possibly help that.
Sure. I totally understand. I'd rather have you have a garage than a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it's up to me, but it's not.
Yeah,
I'm one of five,
right,
so.
right, yeah.
Okay,
So Mark,
yes,
the Dusty Pines subdivision.
Yes.
It was platted, has 60-foot, side, has a 60-foot along Worthington, 60-foot along Dusty Pine, but those are kind of in time, so currently it's 75.
okay,
So
yeah,
existing non-conforming.
right. I'm sure that at the time when it was platted, it was probably, yeah. That's kind of what I would speculate, so. I've been around a while, not quite that long in the township. Okay. Anybody have any questions for the applicant, gentlemen? No?
Can you build the garage and maintain the trees that are on Worthington Road?
I believe, we might have to trim a little bit back on the inside, but I think the trees will be able to stay. I mean, I would like for them to stay. And because of the nature, it'll be, and some of the pines are rather large, so we might have to, like I said, trim back a little bit of the lower branches on our side. It wouldn't do anything. If the AEP doesn't get them on the other side, I don't know. They just rolled through this past spring, and, yeah, so they won't be around for another couple of years, but they did a nice job of
Yeah.
shaving them down.
It appears that you're far enough away from the utilities, they shouldn't have any issues.
Right, no, that
And
didn't,
you're on septic and a well?
well, correct.
Or well, no Delco water?
No, I'm sorry, we're septic, but we are Delco water.
Delco, okay. And where approximately is the septic? Is it?
If you were to look at that other picture,
Does it show?
okay, probably, let's go with that other, this one right there. If you see where where we had some, there, so where the straw is, we had, for the benefit of not only ourselves, but the neighborhood, had 4 large cottonwood trees taken out of there. And the septic is, you can almost, it's right where that lone pine tree is right there, just where the hand is almost, that's where the septic is. Yeah. And the leach bed is farther down.
So you're gonna be far enough away from the septic.
Yeah, they
for
came,
whatever you're gonna build.
they came and looked, and they did.
Yeah, I was gonna note for the record that he has a statement from the,
Yeah, I saw that too. I just wanted to clarify and make sure it was in the record.
Yeah.
24 by 24, so I can store them, no.
I'll be able to pull in my truck without having to hit a tennis ball and freeze it
Yeah,
immediately.
I know, yeah, I get it. Okay, anybody else? Bob, Dave? Anything? Dave?
The only question I have is power line distance. Because there's poles in there and there's, 3-phase power lines going through there. I'm just wondering what the distance on the power lines would be.
Ooh.
The power line should be in the right of way. But I don't know. I don't do power lines, so.
And I would think,
Oh, I
in
see
regards,
what
to
you're
in regards,
yeah, that's what I was asking earlier.
yeah, in regards to the pond, I would think then if Worthington Road would ever, I hope not, ever get widened, yeah, I would think that they would have a tendency to go the opposite side of the power lines. But that, I don't know if that's true or not, but that would involve a lot of other things if they decided to do
So
that.
just so I've got it, I think I do, is that you're building basically where this asphalt pad is?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. It's gonna go a little bit farther back,
Mm-hmm.
because that only goes as far back as our existing garage. So
Oh,
it'll go a little
okay.
farther back, and I think 3 feet beyond the Worthington side of it.
Okay, beyond the existing
Yeah.
asphalt, so you're only gonna go out 3 feet.
Yeah.
I see what you mean with them,
Yeah.
when you're gonna have to trim that tree back a
Yeah.
little bit. And AEP will probably help you a little bit with the top, it looks like, if they haven't already.
Mm.
Okay. All right, anybody else? Nothing? Anybody wanna go through Duncan versus Middlefield? What's that?
Public comments?
Oh, thank you. See, I knew you were here for a reason.
What was it?
Is there anyone, member of the public that would like to speak and has been sworn in regarding this application? No? Okay, no one? Anyone that hasn't been sworn in? No. All right. Then, anybody want to go through Duncan versus Middlefield? You get an A for the day.
I thought of one question I do have for you. Did you say it's 32 feet from the property line that you'd want to set it to?
32 feet from the, yes, from the, after you get the 17, well,
From the easement.
from the, yes, 32 feet from the, yes.
That's a bit.
I think it comes out to 57% of the, if I'm not mistaken, 50% of the variance.
From the property line.
Yes, that's, yeah.
The property line and the road right-of-way line are one and the same.
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, so you're 50%, 57%, which is percentage-wise, that's pretty big.
I don't realize it's, like I said, it's significant, but the fact that our house ate into 15 feet of it to start off with,
Right,
yeah.
which probably, you know, like Susan said, it probably when it was constructed, it was probably right on the line, the easement line. So, okay. Anything else, Paul? Anything? Okay. Do you want to go through Duncan, or no?
Sure.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Boy, Duncan's a real popular guy.
Duncan is extremely popular with us.
The board reviewed section 307.06 of the zoning resolution reflecting Duncan v. Middlefield as it pertains to the area variance requested from section 1609.01.a to allow for an accessory building to encroach into a front setback in a rural residential zoning district as follows. The property in question would yield a reasonable return, and there can be beneficial use of the property without the variance. And thought process there is it's in use as a dwelling today, and this is more of a want, a good want, but not necessarily a need for the use of the property. The variance is substantial at over 50% encroachment into the regular setback. The essential character of the neighborhood would not be substantially altered, and the adjoining properties would not suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. And my thinking there is they're able to preserve the tree buffer along Worthington Road, and we do not have any negative comments from the public on the variance request. The variance would not adversely affect the delivery of government services, and that's evidenced by lack of any objections from our township services. Property owner did purchase the property with knowledge of the zoning restriction, and I acknowledge that you did not research it at the time, but our standing position is it's a matter of public record and everybody is aware of it. The property owner's predicament cannot be feasibly obviated through a method other than the variance, and I would say that's due to the conditions of the property, the walkout basement, the septic mound, and other areas just make it impossible to put an accessory dwelling somewhere else, or accessory building somewhere else. The spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed, and substantial justice would be done by granting the variance. And again, I think that's due to the fact that it's hidden, it provides a good use, enhances the property, and we don't have any public comment to the contrary on it.
Good, thank you. I do have a couple more questions.
Okay, sure.
That came to mind. Is this building going to be attached or detached, the existing
Be
garage?
detached.
Detached, okay.
That's there'll be a 4-foot walk-through.
Oh, I see, okay. And again, just so I have it, it looks like from one of the pictures, you've got an enclosed porch off the back of the
Correct.
house. And then the septic is in proximity to that?
No, actually.
Is it to the side of it?
It's
Is that what it is?
The septic is on the Worthington, right where those, well, in that one picture that
Right,
had where the.
where the one tree is?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, you don't have a patio or porch or anything else back there?
No, well, they're out in the walkout basement, there is a deck, whatever you want, a small deck that
Okay.
goes out the back there,
Okay.
that you
'Cause
walk out.
I guess my question is if you were to build, could you feasibly build a detached garage farther back?
If it went farther back, it'd start to encroach on the septic and the leach bed and farther back.
Okay,
But we kept it far enough forward. And for appearance purposes, the fact that it matches up with the house,
okay.
the garage, it lines up. So if we pushed it, like I said, I don't think we'd want to push it any farther back,
Okay,
only
'cause-
because of the septic and the leach bed that it would be off. If you look at the drawing there, the septic and the leach bed are to the right and back.
Okay, and then your enclosed porch is back here?
No, right where you were at first there.
Okay,
So
that's what it looks like. from here.
Yeah, mhm.
And then your septic was over here?
It would be more to your right, yeah, over, yes, yeah.
I don't think he's gonna pick up anything pushing it back though, Mark, because
Yeah, that's
it's
what I,
parallel.
that's
it's
what I,
parallel,
you know,
yeah.
when we come to,
Yeah.
can he feasibly obviate the condition another way? That's where
But
I
it's-
was,
it's-
I wanted to.
It's almost like direct parallel to Worthington Road if you push it
Okay,
back. it's
and that's what I wanted to see if.
It doesn't
Down
change
It doesn't
that.
pick you up anything.
No, it doesn't
Okay,
change
all right.
anything.
Did
It
you
would
look
have
at-
to go, it would have to go back and behind to get us any farther away from Worthington Road.
Okay, all right, that's what I wanted to know. Okay, somebody want to make a motion then? Or I guess I can if I need to. All right. Okay,
Mark, I can do it if you.
you want to do it, Bob?
Sure.
Thank you.
I move to incorporate exhibits, I think it was A through D, correct? As well as the board's findings pertaining to the review of section 307.06 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution into evidence and to approve the requested variance from section 1609.01A of the Genoa Township zoning resolution for BZA 2023-07. Application received on May 25th, 2023, to allow for an accessory building to encroach 32 feet,
It would be a 43-foot encroachment.
43-foot encroachment into the front setback from Worthington Road on property known as Lot 1362 in Dusty Pines subdivision, 7520 Dusty Pines Drive, Galena, Ohio, 43021, zone rural residential, RR. This motion is based upon the following findings of fact pursuant to 307.04 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution. We found that the property in question, although not yielding a reasonable, not affecting its reasonable return, or that the other beneficial use of the property would enhance the value of the property, and there were no objections. Second, that the variance was substantial, being over 50%. We found that the essential character of the neighborhood would not substantially be altered, and the adjoining properties would not suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance, because he's going to make an effort to preserve the trees. He'll stay out of the, this keeps it out of the leach bed, and there were no negative comments from the public. The variance would not adversely affect the delivery of government services. The property owner did purchase the property with knowledge of the zoning restrictions, but as we discussed here today, other factors mitigate that finding. The property owner's predicament cannot feasibly be obviated through a method other than the variance because of the septic system, the leach bed, and the grade in which any of the land behind the house would leave him for construction. And then finally, the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice would be done by granting this variance.
Okay. Discussion? Any more questions for the applicant?
Well, should I go through the conditions?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I thought you were finished.
Okay, the approval of the subject variance is subject to the owner's agreement to the following conditions. All the required permits and zoning or otherwise be obtained pursuant to section 307.11 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution. The approved variance shall lapse, expire, or be null and void ab initio if required zoning permits are not obtained within 1 year of the motion's approval. Extensions to this variance may be requested pursuant to sections 307.11A and B of the Genoa Township zoning resolutions as may be amended. And the Board of Zoning Appeals does grant the Genoa Township zoning inspector authority to extend this variance at their discretion, subject to the deadlines established within section 307.11A of the Genoa Township zoning resolutions as may be amended. I so move, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Second? I'll second. Discussion? None? Okay, I'm going to call the roll. Mr. Boone?
Yes.
Mr. Christian?
Yes.
Mr. DeRose?
Yes.
Mr. Hanson?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Variance is approved. Good luck. Now, you did the easy part. Motion carries, and this hearing is adjourned at 7:36 PM. Can we take about a 5-minute break? Do you guys mind?
Does that mean I have to go to
All right, you guys ready to go again? All right,
It's not me.
I'm going to call the meeting back into order. We're going to open the public hearing at 7:41, and for our second case tonight. And I will ask those that are appearing on this matter to please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. Yeah, I know. There you go. We don't charge extra, so it's fine. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Be seated. I'll read the application into the record. Joel V. Copeland and Pam Copeland requesting approval of a variance to allow a solar panel array to be located within the required 75-foot front yard setback at 9900 Meadowbrook Lane, Lot 527, in the Woodhaven Estates subdivision, currently zoned rural residential, RR, and this is BZA case 2023. The legal notice for this hearing was printed and published on June 7th, 2023 in the Delaware Gazette and posted at the Genoa Township Hall on June 2nd, 2023. An attempt to mail a notice of this hearing to property owners contiguous to and across the street from the subject party was also made. Entered into evidence are exhibits A through D, which is the legal notice, the sign-in sheet, the application, and the staff report dated June 23rd, 2023. And at this time, we'll start with the staff report.
So, as noted in the legal notice, this subject property address is 9900 Meadowbrook Lane. It's lot 567 in the Woodhaven Estates. It's a 2.02 acre parcel and it's zoned rural residential. The plat map for the Woodhaven Estates was recorded in December 1956. According to the Delaware County Auditor's site, the single-family residence located on the subject property was constructed in 1972. We were unable to locate a zoning permit, but it's understandable given the age of the structure. We did locate zoning permit issued for the construction of an existing in-ground swimming pool, and that was issued in April 1987. And then zoning permit 2020283 was issued for the installation of ground-mounted solar panels on September 20, 2020. And then a zoning permit 2023-021 was issued February 23 of this year for the installation of a new fence. According to the Delaware County Auditor's site, the property was purchased by the applicant in October of 2006. January 2023, when the zoning department received the application for the new fence on the property. During that review process, we noted that the installation of the solar panels appeared to be much closer than what was to be where they were supposed to be placed per the proposal of when the zoning permit was issued.
Do you have any indication of like the application that shows where it was supposed to be located from the permit, from the original permit? You do. Is it, yeah.
So on February 2nd, 2023, we sent a notification letter to the property owner, notifying them that the solar panels had not been installed in the location that Solar is Freedom had put on the site plan for the zoning permit. Solar is Freedom contacted the zoning department and stated that they were planning to submit a variance application so that the panels could remain in their current location. The solar company was informed that we would not pursue any additional violation at that time pending submission of the application. They failed to submit by that deadline. Mr. Schaefer did grant an extension to the following month, and they did not apply for that either. So then the property owners themselves submitted the application for the variance.
So just so I understand, and so everybody understands, you, we had I'm gonna call them the contractor, the provider,
The solar company?
the solar company, twice. You tried to get them to get the variance application, okay, and then your last recourse is, of course, to go to the property owner.
Well, no, I think the property owner had to do that because the solar company seems to have gone AOL.
Okay. Okay, just wanted to make sure I understood that.
Okay. So the original permit, though their sketch is not to scale, they proposed it to be, they said it was going to be 82 feet from the property line along Meadowbrook Lane. It's much closer than that. It does meet all of the other setbacks, so it does meet the setback up.
Yeah, from the shortest distance.
From the shortest distance, not the top.
Right, not here, but here. It's supposed to be 82 feet? Okay.
So all the other setbacks are compliant. It is 82 feet, or excuse me, it does meet the 75-foot setback off of Woodhaven, and it does meet
Well, right, I mean, if you look
the
at
50-foot
this.
setback off of, well,
I mean, if,
it could be much closer to the rear property. Okay.
Susan, all three sides are, I apologize.
I didn't want to give my staff report.
All three sides have,
we'll let you get to it in a
all
minute.
three sides have to be 75 though, right? In that case?
Just off the two
Okay,
fronts,
off the two road surfaces.
so it could be much closer to the rear property line. and
That one is
the other
clearly
neighboring
fine.
property. Because it would be considered an accessory structure, so it could be 10 feet from the property.
You may continue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, it's gonna be a rough
I'm
ride.
sorry.
Gonna be like that, is it?
At least there's not a whole lot.
We just want to keep you engaged.
So, as same as the last one, this application, the applicant did not state exactly the distance that the solar panels are away from the road right-of-way line. So we've requested that the applicant clarify that this evening. A copy of the variance application was provided to Police, Fire, and Maintenance Department. The police and fire responded, and they had no concerns. And we received several emails. Some of them we received attached to the staff memo, and then multiples throughout yesterday and today.
And today.
And you have copies of, or emailed those, and you also have paper copies. And then evidently there was one additional one that,
And as I recall, they were pretty mixed. They were, as I recall, they were pretty mixed, yeah.
so you have those. No, do you have any questions?
I have a question. So, as I reviewed this and I understand it, there was a permit, this was granted. And the only thing that occurred, as I understand it, is that the contractor didn't follow the plans and put it inappropriately on the thing. But it was, if they had made it so that it was 75 feet at all the corners in front of the thing, it would have been fine. It would have been, there'd have been nothing there. The idea is that the contractor just screwed up.
And we don't,
But we don't know.
I'm sorry, Bob, I didn't,
But we don't know that for sure.
Right, but that's the allegation, is the contractor
right.
messed it
Now,
up. Right.
so should I assume that this is compliant, this end is compliant?
No.
Probably not. So none of it is
Oh,
compliant.
so none of it's
then.
compliant.
Okay, but we don't
Oh,
know,
we
okay,
don't
you know
know. We
what?
Yeah, that helps
We don't
me.
know that.
Before we get any farther, let's hear from the applicant. So if the Copeland,
Our office
Mr.
does not go out and measure, none of us are certified.
I understand.
You know, surveyors.
Mr. Copeland, you can either stand or sit, and whatever your choice is, and tell us.
No, it's not compliant at the other end. I would
Okay.
say it's probably, I measured the closest end, just to the, not to the right of way, but to the roadside to Meadowbrook Lane, and it's 33 feet off of Meadowbrook Lane. And it's
So, right,
supposed
so
to be,
this end,
that end
this
is
is
33.
33 feet.
Yeah, that's
And
probably 50, maybe 55 or so.
neither end is compliant?
No,
Okay.
not even
So when you
close.
say off the street, do you mean off the easement or off the actual street?
Off the edge of the pavement.
Okay.
So 50 and 33, okay. All right,
May I proceed?
you
All right, thank
may.
All right. The narrative that we've already listened to here and that's in the application is pretty clear, but I would, let me just restate it. We signed a contract with Solar is Freedom in August of 2020. In September, Solar is Freedom applied for and received approval for a zoning permit and began construction in December. So in December of 2020, a crew working for the company installed a 60-foot, 40-panel solar ground array on our property. The original permit application showed that the array would be placed 82 feet off of Meadowbrook Lane, like we said. But one thing that we need to, I guess being the premise that ignorance is no excuse, we were still ignorant. We didn't see the permit at all. We had no idea that that was supposed to be the place it was supposed to go in. We didn't receive information to that effect until we got the zoning violation from the township in February. We did not knowingly flout the rules. As I said, it is 33 feet off of the edge of Meadowbrook Lane. And if I understand the regulations regarding setbacks and right-of-way, it should actually be 92 and a half feet off because there's a 17 and a half foot right-of-way plus 75 feet. Right?
So the measurement per the zoning resolution is 75 feet from the right-of-way line. I believe the Copeland's property line extends much farther, so, but the measurement is from the right-of-way line. So Mr. Schaefer and Mr. Benson did some research, and they determined that it was at 17, is it 17?
17 and a half. Yeah, I went back through all my email threads, and Paul Benson wrote this quite a while back, actually, saying that it should be 92 and a half feet off of Meadowbrook.
So they determined that the right-of-way is 17 and a half feet. So Mr. Copeland's math would be correct. So if you add that 17 and a half plus 75, he would be 90.
Yeah, so for what it's worth, it wouldn't have been compliant even if it had been put in the place that the permit gave them directions for. For what it's worth, and I don't know how valuable it is, I don't think they intentionally did this. I think this was a breakdown of communication between their corporate office and the installation team. The installation people, I don't know if they ever looked at anything. They just came in and said, well, this is the spot it's got to be, and they put it in. We never questioned it because we agreed. If you look at the at this photograph here, see those shadows reaching out for the array? Move it 50 feet in, and it's worthless. And so it's not doing anything if it goes in there. So what I've said later in this is if we had known that this is where they were going to put it, that they had to put it, if we had known where the correct spot is, we would have pulled the plug. We would not have gone ahead with it, because we can't cut down trees, and even some of the neighbors' trees are impinging on it. So where it is where it will work on our property.
Let me ask you this, did you explore, because the ones that I see, and I don't see a lot of them, they're generally on roofs of
Yeah.
houses.
We were given the solar company makes these judgments off of Google Earth. They look at pictures like this, and they look at the trees and they say, it's not going to work.
It's too wooded, you
Yeah,
can't put it on the roof.
right. You have to cut, are you willing to cut trees to make it happen? And we're not. We didn't, that kind of defeats the purpose. We're trying to keep carbon.
So, let me understand, I don't mean to interrupt, but let
No,
me
no.
understand, if we say no, and you have to go back inside the easement, the thing is essentially worthless.
Yeah, if you say no here,
Do what you want to do.
right.
I see.
If we say no today, then what we have to do is take it down and figure out a way to get rid of it. And sadly, probably still be on the hook for the loan on it, so, but stuff happens, right? But what I said about not cutting down trees, if we'd known about it, again, we really didn't do this thinking that we were flouting the rules. We weren't playing a game. There's a couple of emails by one of our neighbors that you might get the impression that there's been a long simmering dispute amongst our neighbors. Maybe, but I never heard of it. No one has ever said anything but positive comments to me. I've talked to people as they walk by. There's at least one other couple down the street put in solar after seeing ours, use the same company, sadly. So I really, we definitely are not thumbing our noses at our neighbors. We did not realize that there was the level of
Well, I don't
anger
think
that there
anybody
is.
thinks that you are. I don't think anyone here thinks that you are.
Well, you might want to read one of the emails more carefully, but anyway.
Well, depends, well, go ahead.
Yeah. Most of what I see by way of objections to the array now, other than the fact that it's widely out of compliance, are aesthetic objections, because it's kind of ugly looking at the back of it. And I don't disagree with that. I do wonder, though, if aesthetics are part of the zoning process when you guys do this stuff, or when stuff is
Here's
done.
what I'll tell many people that sit in that seat. We are not an architectural committee. We do not approve or disapprove building designs. We grant variances if it's merited.
My comment about the aesthetics is I don't think they'd be terribly different if it were moved in. You'd still be seeing it out in the middle of a wide lawn as you came into Woodhaven Estates. That said, our intent was to screen the back of it, and still is to screen the back of it if it stays with new plantings. We put in a bunch of native trees and bushes. We sadly chose the row of bushes that's closest to the array was supposed to fill in. It was supposed to bush out. It's called a black chokeberry. It didn't. Deer like it. It didn't thrive, and so it's kind of scraggly. So our expectation going into the spring was that we would add more, that we would get more stuff in there. As I think happens quite often in these procedures, the idea of a violation kind of freezes everything until we figure out whether we're going to be, if we're going to have to move it, I don't want a hedge sitting out in the middle of my yard.
Of course.
But that said, if the variance is approved, we will continue to plant bushes and shrubs. We will not be as timid about it, and we will plant, oh yeah, there they are. We have pictures of some very rough looking, I'm not good on Photoshop, so yeah. So we have a combination of arbor vitae and some silky dogwoods is our design at the moment. The idea being that by year one, a year in the future, we would have it about 75% screened. By year 2, we could have it virtually 100% screened, so that you can't see into the guts of the array. So in short, we're asking you to allow us to leave it where it is. As we have said, there's no alternative placement for the panels on our property. And that's me. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Mr. Chair, can I have a question?
Yeah, please. No, yeah, stay there, Mr. Coe.
So, Mr. Copeland, when they were putting this in, and you had indicated that you and your wife didn't know where it was supposed to go in, was that what your
We
testimony?
didn't know, we didn't know where it should have gone in according to the
Okay.
zoning application.
Did, at the time that they were, the company was putting this in, did they come in and tell you they were going to move it? Did they say anything that they just moved it? They just
They just
they
started.
came in, built it?
Right.
came out? Okay.
You never saw the permitting for the 75 feet?
And I have the status of the company to, if we were to deny the variance, is the company still viable? Is it still?
Hard to tell. They're not communicative now. They have the same voicemail message on their telephone that says that they're reorganizing. Please be patient with us while we reorganize. So I have a feeling that and I asked others in the industry, and I was told that they were pulling out of Ohio, but it seems like it might be more profound than that they might be just out of business. I expect that they are an LLC, and they're going to be a little hard to pierce the corporate shell, but
When you did the contract for the services, was their obtaining the permits, was it their responsibility in the contract?
yeah.
And besides our agency contacting them, could you just tell us what attempts you have made with the contractor to get them to rectify this?
Sure. I got the first letter from Genoa Township, was dated February 2nd. I got it February 9th. I was on the phone to them on February 9th. I'd have to go through an email chain, but they were actually quite responsive initially, and I was talking to senior members, a director of customer experience and a director of operations in February, and they said at that time that they would basically take care of everything. They accepted, the feeling was that they accepted responsibility. This is our screw up, we'll take care of it. And then the conversation went on. I went back and forth with them a couple times. But they had a May 28th deadline to apply for a variance that they missed. And then at that point, from that point forward, it was radio silence.
And these communications and the stuff that you have where you've contacted with the contract, are you still in possession of that information?
Yeah,
And if we asked you to make that part of the record, you could do that?
sure. There's one communication that was fairly central that was on the phone. It's referenced in an email, but I think it's pretty obvious what we were talking about.
Go ahead. Yeah.
How are the panels mounted to the ground? Are they poured concrete or?
No, it's
Just
just the
dug?
metal poles are set
Okay.
in the ground.
And what percentage of your power is generated? Like, what's probably the average savings? Could you guess?
When it's functioning fully properly, it's about 80 to 85% of our power. So we had several months where we paid no electric bill.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking. And this, what's in this area right here?
Just open lawn.
So it's potentially that could be sitting right here.
Potentially, except for the trees that you see to the south there are going to, at a different time of day, those trees are just going to wipe it out. So what you're looking for, 8 to 10 hours of full sun if you can get it. So there aren't very many spots with all the trees we have there. There aren't very many spots.
Oh, surely, regularly.
And prior, and prior to receiving notifications from this agency, had you received any other issues with respect to the solar panel?
No.
Okay, let's hear from members of the public. If you've been sworn in, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and then whatever comment you might have.
Rankin. Erin Rankin, 4820 Woodhaven. I have a question about this whole thing. Why wasn't it put on a ballot to begin with? Because everybody else that builds sheds or anything else, everything gets posted. You know, we're allowed to speak up. Is there a reason? Because isn't it a permanent structure?
So the only time that the neighbors would ever have any notifications that an adjacent property owner or anyone in your neighborhood had requested a permit is if it's non-compliant to the zoning resolution. So if somebody asked to add an addition or put in a accessory building and it's compliant with the code, everything's issued administratively through our office because it's complying to the code. The only time that you're notified is a situation where, like the previous hearing, where they can't meet the setback, so then they have the opportunity to ask for the variance to get relief from that requirement.
We've just had other neighbors wanting sheds and they had signs in their yards right before they build a shed.
Yeah, I'm
Mike
not,
is-
nothing's coming.
Yeah, Mike has had to have a. So I'm just curious, this is a
Unless they
pretty
ask for a
permanent.
variance too, then if they would have had this same process, otherwise it's just administrative through our
Okay.
office.
Because, so, you know, speaking from, you drive in, I do feel like you kind of thumbed your nose at the neighborhood. Sorry, that might have been my email you were referring to. Nothing, no plants were put in for 2 years until he got the variance thing.
That's not true.
You did it last year, last spring.
No, I
That's
did
2
it before
years.
that. I can go back and prove. it.
Maybe the grasses
No, not
on
the
your
grasses.
side, so you
Sorry,
didn't
the-
see it.
The violation was February of this year? And you just said he put in the last spring?
But it took him 2 years, right? 2020
that would
to
still be a year.
2022. It doesn't look anything like the pictures you had up there.
That's because I'm showing what we're going to do when we have, if we get it, if we can leave it where it is, that's what we're gonna do.
It's very unsightly. So the person that lives in the house across from there, across from the, on the other side of Meadowbrook,
The north?
on the north side.
Okay.
So as soon as that solar panel went in, he went in and put in all sorts of, a whole line of, right on the edge of the road. There's cedar, there's some other shrubs, so he didn't have to look at it from his house, which sits back quite a ways. I'm okay as long as you put some shrubs up. It's unsightly when you pull in.
I agree.
You know.
I
the-
think we should have been more aggressive about getting the plants in there. I mean, I think that
Yeah.
was our mistake.
So, and I do feel sometimes that is the only place you could put it. And I don't know how many contractors show up and just start building without permit from the owner. So,
If you wanna look at the permit, there's no place for me to sign or anything. It's
We
just,
keep the,
saying.
we keep the comments
Yeah. if
one at a
you guys,
time,
yeah,
and please
could
direct,
address
at the
us.
podium, please direct your comments to the.
I am.
to the board. Thank you.
I mean, we got gravel delivered and they won't even dump gravel until you tell them where to put it.
So it's a very different scenario.
I-
For permitting, I've had solar installed myself. You never see a permit. As the customer of a company like that, or even if you're getting an addition built on your house, you generally don't look at the permits. You just assume that they did it. They give you proof that they did it. So it's, though ultimately the responsibility of the property owner, it is not uncommon to not see it.
As a general
But
rule, we
he's-
do email the property owners. Now, I can't verify or testify that they received it because a lot of times, things go into junk mail and such like that. But we do, as a general rule, email the contractor and the homeowner. We ask for the homeowner's email address and email to them. And the property owners sign the application form too, or the company gives us a copy of the contract, which states that they have been given permission by the homeowner to submit on their behalf.
Which I think is what happened here. I'm sorry.
But it was also stated in an email, that's the only place it would work, and they weren't gonna cut down trees. So that's all I have to say.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
So the crux, as I understand the crux of your argument is that your main issue is that having to look at it from the back of
It's
the
terrible
thing. And
back
if there was, if the homeowner addressed the back of the thing, your concern would be mitigated, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. But I feel like that, it's been 3 years. Could have been grown up.
Okay, let's move
That's
on.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, who's next? Sir, come up, name and address, please.
I'm John Anderson. I live at 4880 Woodhaven Drive. And I think the situation is very hard for Joel. I don't think that he got the right information or their contractors got the right information. I think from what I'm hearing, and my hearing is a little suspect, that the contractors did show a setback that was 75 feet or some number that seemed more reasonable. Is that correct? Okay, but then they just came out and built it and figured out where it would work and put it in. And I think there's going to be more things going on with solar panels and people in this situation because utility costs are going up and it's sympathetic to those costs. And I personally built my house and in the woods. One of the reasons was to try to keep the cooling costs down. But Joel is trying to take advantage of non-polluting energy from the sun. I'd like to be able to do that. I think that's a good thing. I was a little surprised that he did not landscape it in a way that you didn't have to look into the guts of it. And I hear my neighbors saying that would be adequate to them if they would, if he would, I think you had a landscaping plan that would really cover the back of it. Is that correct, Joe?
Yeah.
I think that's a good remedy, and to move it would be quite it wouldn't function correctly. And I'm here to support Joel in landscaping it and retaining it in the current position. As a matter of fact, I actually think it's a statement about our subdivision because we have other neighbors doing some solar things. And it testifies to the number of people in our subdivision who have some concern about the environment as we drive in. Any questions?
No, I think we're, nope, thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, anybody else? Oh, sir.
Rod Franken, 4820 Woodhaven Drive. I don't want to belabor the point, but the crux of all of it is that unfortunately, his property is the very first one that you enter and exit. First one you enter, last one you exit as you come back into the subdivision. So if it had been, if his property was in the far back and there was only he or one other person that could view it, it wouldn't be an issue, right? You wouldn't see it. But the problem is, the first thing you see when you come in, unfortunately, is that solar array, and it's the last thing you see when you leave. So, and it did upset, maybe half the neighborhood. I don't know what the percentage is, but it was very unsightly for a long time. So, whatever we have to do to make it unsightly, whether that's, remove it or put shrubs around it, whatever. But if we're gonna put shrubs around it, it should be shrubs that obscure it now, not in a year, not in 2 years, not in 10 years, right? I understand that he made an effort to put things there, but they don't obscure it now. And it's just as ugly as it was before you put them there. So if we could do that, that would be great.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, that is, we'll close public comment. Sorry about that. All right, I have a couple of, oh, do you have something,
No,
Bob?
say, we give him a chance to respond to anything that's the applicant's response.
Sure.
No, I didn't hear anything there. I mean, I agree with them. That the back of it does need to be screened. I am gonna be hard, plants don't show up fully grown necessarily. I mean, it's gonna be hard to do it 100% in a year, but we'll make our best effort. And, we'll do what we can. We understand what the obligation here is. And I honestly don't feel like having angry neighbors anymore. I didn't know I had them, and now I don't want to have them anymore. So now it's gonna be out in the open. So.
I understand.
I think Mr. Rankin's got another question.
Come to the podium, please. I hope this is new information.
No, I just want to respond. So one of our other neighbors, they built a large pole barn years ago. And it was under the stipulation that it is screened with trees.
Sure.
And that fell through. Some of them, for a long time, for over 15 years, it wasn't. And then finally, I think somebody said something and he put some trees in and they were about this tall.
Right.
Those died, then it sat there for a while, and then he just replanted some more that were this tall.
Actually, I was going to address that, but I don't mean to cut you off,
Yeah.
but go ahead.
So just if pine trees, something else that doesn't disappear during the winter, because, our climate here, they need to be pines that are at least as high as that solar array. I think that's fair.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, I have a couple comments and then we can go into discussion. First of all, we have as a board in the past, not in the recent past, have approved variances with stipulations of landscaping. Now, I know what Susan over here is gonna say. I've been around a couple minutes here, is that it's highly unenforceable. They're not gonna enforce it. We certainly aren't gonna enforce it. We can do it, we can say it, but there's no enforcement arm that goes along with that.
I don't know, though, we could probably do landscaping.
Okay, all right. The other thing that I would say too is that my experience with these, and actually you probably know better than I do, Jared, but is that these are essentially personal property. They can be moved when if in the event, let's say next year he wants to sell the property, he can take them with him. For my purposes, when I do valuations on property, I don't consider those for that reason. So conceivably, it could be moved. So it depends. Do you want to put the burden of moving them on him? At what cost? I don't know. You'd have to find somebody else that could move them. Maybe they're movable easily. Maybe they're not. Maybe it makes sense. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. That's not what I do all day. Or do you require that he landscape them? And what that looks like, I have no idea. I couldn't be gone far from the guy that's gonna tell you how to landscape. And I think that this is one of the toughest cases I think I've seen on this board, and I've been on the board for quite a while, as you guys know. Because who do you want to burden? Do you want to burden the landowner? Here's the thing too, is if, for example, let's say he moved it into the easement, just for the sake of discussion. He moved it from 30 feet off the easement to the 75. He moves it essentially where that tree is back there. It's still gonna
gonna
have
look
the same
exactly the same.
aesthetics that it does today.
Yeah.
So how do you address that? And I don't know, I'm asking you, I don't know. Like I said, I've been doing this more than 20 minutes, and I don't know what the good answer is on
I have
this.
a quick question for Mr. Copeland.
Go.
Mr. Copeland, the fencing permit that you're seeking, does that have anything to do with the solar panels? Was an intent to?
No, no, the fencing is already in.
So I'm wondering if there's an aesthetic principle of putting a fencing around it or with landscaping. So
You got the floor.
to Mr. Rankin's point,
Oh, and
you
I
would
don't
have that-
disagree with the homeowners
that you would
at all.
have something hiding it all year round, seasonality wise, along with landscaping, if that landscaping would die off.
So,
So,
the burden, the applicant that seeks the variance has a burden in both instances.
I agree.
If he moves it, it's a cost.
Sure.
If this was a cost that was something done with the contractor, I've been satisfied that the applicant, although, you know, has to follow the rules, isn't, you know,
I
there are
agree.
mitigating circumstances.
And I think what has happened, because we've seen this in the past, especially with fences, where they build it, they don't get a permit, and then they're in here because it's in the easement. The real issue, and I think exactly what he said had happened, corporate gets the permits, they tell you what they need to tell you to get the permit, the guy that's doing the work, probably a subcontractor, goes out and puts it because he's put in 10 dozen of them over the years.
Looked up,
and
saw the
puts it where it's
trees.
gonna
Yeah, he
work.
looked up, saw the
Yep.
trees, says, can't work here. But if
Yep.
it was, but the point for me is if it was compliant, then the issue of landscaping.
We
is-
wouldn't even
we
see
wouldn't be
it.
here.
We wouldn't even see it.
So I know personally, I'm in favor of, you know, being Solomon-like in here, especially since the applicant for the variance is already conceded that he's willing to do something. on
Sure.
it. I think we have to watch, though, conditioning, if we grant this, on anything specific, other than, I would say, it has to be in the landscaping vein,
Okay.
and it has to be at least high enough to the top of the back of the thing. And I think we have to leave it there, because,
How high are those off the
6
ground?
feet.
6 feet? Okay.
and it could, you know, it could be something, I think we're going down the right path, at least in the discussion I've heard so far, but I think we have to watch saying it's anything more specific than the vein being something in the landscaping field, area, and a minimum height requirement.
So where I was going, and I'm just, I don't have an opinion, honestly, I don't at this point. So let's, for example, say, okay, in the motion, somebody's gonna say, okay, well, he has to have a 6-foot-high vinyl fence. Well, if I'm maybe his neighbor that lives behind him, next to him, across from him, maybe I don't like white vinyl fences. So what's the right answer? What's that fence look like? What's that landscaping look like? I don't know what the right answer is on that.
I don't either, but I would, going from, I think every property owner in here would view it as, I think what it is the choice of the property owner. But the idea that the trade-off for it having gone in the wrong spot is that there has to be some level
Sure.
of landscaping. But I think we stop there. I think we can set a minimum height requirement. I think, I'm just saying, this is the way I'm processing in my head, is that it has to be we set, it has to be something within compliance, landscaping, minimum height, and then I think the property owner gets to pick after that.
Okay.
I mean, that's where I'm going with
Well,
this on this.
okay, here's what I would suggest, is somebody, one of you four, go through Duncan versus Middlefield. And then, once we go through that,
Okay.
A, it may make a little more sense to everybody, and B, it may be a situation where somebody, and I would actually encourage you to do it, Bob, is craft a motion that makes sense. And I'm willing to listen. I'm not, just because I sit here, and like I tell people, I'm just calling the score. That's all I'm doing. Public comment is really closed, ma'am. Seriously, I'm not being flippant with you, but public comment's closed. The board's having discussion. If we have a question for the applicant or staff, that's why they're here. But you had an opportunity when all these other people, and I'm not gonna debate it, okay? All right, so why doesn't somebody go through Duncan versus Middlefield? And I'm open to suggestion, Dave, Bob, one of you guys, Paul,
Doesn't matter.
Jared.
You wanna go through them?
Go ahead.
I'll go through it. The board reviewed section 307.06 of the zoning resolution reflecting Duncan versus Middlefield as it pertains to the area variance requested from section 1609.02A to allow for an accessory structure to encroach into the front setback in a rural residential RR zoning district as follows. The property in question would yield a reasonable return, and there can be beneficial use of the property without the variance. And then basically, if the solar panels were removed, it would be the same area as is without the solar panels. The variance is substantial, and basically what I did was I took the center point of the solar panels of the 60 feet, and I took 30 feet, and I went to the roadway. You said it was 33 feet on one side, 55 feet on the other. I went to 44 feet. I came to 41% being substantial to the middle of those solar panels. So it is substantial. The essential character of the neighborhood this is a tough one. I would say that the character of the neighborhood is substantially altered, and adjoining properties are suffering a detrimental effect due to the result of the variance. And what I'm saying is, if there is not any landscaping around the solar panels as it stands today, there is a detrimental effect to the neighbors and the surrounding area. The variance would not adversely affect the delivery of governmental services. The property owner, I want to say, did purchase the property with the knowledge of the zoning restriction. However, the property owner did not foresee what the contractor was doing with the restriction in line with placing the solar panels at the time.
We're going to come back to that point
Okay.
in discussion.
The property owner's predicament cannot be feasibly obviated through a method other than the variance. The spirit intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed, and substantial justice would be done by granting the variance.
Are you done? All right, are you finished? Okay. Because I want to do this before we have a motion. Ma'am, come up to the podium. If you have something other than what the other people mentioned. It is other than what these people mentioned? Come on up to the podium, name and address.
Okay, thank you. Cheryl Horath, Hoerath, 4911 Woodhaven.
Okay.
I just when you come around, and Joel probably does not know this because he doesn't come around and go back to where I am, you have our road so narrow. And when you come around that curve, it's hard to see another car coming. So I don't know how the landscaping, if that would block it, but you need to do it sometime. Just go down the road and come our way and see. No, it was just that. I'm just thinking how his landscaping might affect more of our view.
Okay, that's fair. All right.
It's big pine trees, and I don't know if you could maybe take some of the pine, the branches off, but a couple times, there's been a car coming, I'm going that way, and it's coming this way. I can't see it. So I'm afraid he'd have to be careful with how he landscapes that for that purpose. If our road was wider, it'd be great, but it's really narrow.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you. I do have a point about the permitting, for what it's worth. And like I said, I'm just throwing this stuff out. Because, all right, is that, you know, we impugn that the homeowner is aware of the zoning code. We always have, as long as I've been on the board, we just impugn knowledge of the zoning code, whether they have actual knowledge or not. It's ignorance of the law is no excuse. So I guess my point is, and for what it's worth, and it's just a point, is that should he have been on inquiry notice that that thing is built into the, way into the easement, not even close, when they put that thing. Because, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, geez, it's right, it's right on the road, pretty much. And like I said, I'm just putting it out there because we do imply that there is ignorance of the law, the code there is no excuse. And I appreciate, on the other hand, I appreciate his predicament too, is that the company went and got the permit, he doesn't know anything, the guy comes out and he sticks it in the ground and he drives off. I understand how that works. So that's the only comment I have. So does somebody want to make a motion? Not everybody at once.
If you'll help me through, I couldn't take notes fast enough for your reasons why.
You're fine. Do you need a minute, Bob? Go ahead.
No. On the, well, let's do this. I move.
So you've got like I think you've got like 3 choices there.
Yeah, it's right here. I'm just seeing how many exhibits we have.
So you would add Mr. Copeland's,
So what's that give our number? Do we give the new stuff a new, this should be E? So it'd be A through E?
Oh, right.
Okay.
I forgot we had more pictures.
Yeah, so it's A through E.
Put down 42 feet.
42 feet. 2 feet.
Yeah, A through E,
Okay.
right? It's been a while since I've done.
Yeah, I just want to get my ducks in a row before I start this.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to modify the motion here and.
Sure,
we
you
can-
make your motion.
I'll make my
the
motion,
way
then
you
we can
make your
discuss.
ma-
Okay.
Your motion.
All right.
Okay.
I move to incorporate exhibits A through E, as well as the board's findings pertaining to the review of section 307.06 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution into evidence and to approve, subject to conditions to follow, the requested variance from section 1609.02A of the Genoa Township zoning resolution for BZA 202308. Application received May 30th, 2023, to allow for an accessory structure, solar panels, to encroach 42 feet into the front setback from Meadowbrook Lane on property known as Lot 527 in Woodhaven Estates subdivision, 9900 Meadowbrook Lane, Galena, Ohio, 43021, Zone Rural Residential. This motion is based on the following findings of fact pursuant to Section 307.04 of Genoa Township zoning resolution. That such variance will not be contrary to the public interest because the zoning regulations in this instance were complied with by the homeowner by having the contractor, engaging a contractor who did obtain a permit. A permit was granted, and the installation of that structure was erroneous. Although we as a board, always hold the homeowner to, the ignorance of the law is not an excuse. In this case, all matters with respect to the placement of that solar panel complied with this body's regulations, up until it was installed by the contractor. Now, the contractor installed this in clear violation of the permit that was granted. This motion is trying to mitigate, and this is why I believe it's in the public interest, is trying to mitigate a situation by which the homeowner is going to be harmed, was harmed, by the contractor not following the permit for whatever reason, and the fact that had it been put in within the permit, there would have been no ability to object to it because it would have, by anybody, because it would have been properly installed. However, public interest is served because I think the applicant has come here understanding that he wants to do right by it, and he's taken into his neighbor's concerns and is willing to be subject to some conditions, which under Section 307.09, we have the ability, which I'll talk about in a minute, to place upon him. Owing to the special condition, I think the literal enforcement of the zoning resolution will result in an unnecessary hardship because, once again, this homeowner went through the process and has made a substantial financial investment. And because of an error outside of his reasoning, out of his control, not his complete control, but under what normal use of when you engage a contractor, he would be out of substantial investment. Now, on this motion, this section is also subject to the condition that I'm going to put in the motion at the end. Finally, the approval of such variance thereof is consistent with the spirit of the zoning resolution, and substantial justice shall be done because, once again, if the contractor had put it 42 more feet inward, we wouldn't be here. But the homeowner did get permits, did have somebody to go through the whole process. It was the installation that was the problem. Now, approval of the subject variance is subject to the owner's agreement to the following conditions. And these conditions, I believe, Section 307.09 give us the authority, so long as we do not condition a use that is not permissible under any other section of these rules. And the conditions are that the individual, the claimant applying for a variance, incorporate landscaping of such a height and permanency, whether it be natural or in terms of plant-like or any other sort of physical structure that complies with any other section of this of these rules, at such a minimum height to the top of the back of the solar panel. And subject to those conditions, I move that, in addition, that all required permits and zoning or otherwise be obtained, meaning that if what he wants to put in the back of the solar panels requires a permit, that those have to be obtained. And that's the motion.
Good.
It's a modified thing it's a modified version of the Duncan versus Middlefield, because I think this
Sure.
is, these are extenuating circumstances.
And like I said before, we have had conditioned approvals, conditioned on landscaping. I can think of one in particular.
Anybody seconding?
Second.
Okay.
Okay,
Do
we
you have
got, okay,
concerns,
now we have a
Susan?
second. Anybody want to go into
You have
discussion?
concerns, Susan?
Yeah, I do. Okay,
Just as long as it's all clarified at the end, I'm
Yeah.
good.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Because you were given a lot of information there, and
okay.
so if you guys work through that and kind of clarify things, that would be good.
Okay.
that's the way that's how I agreed to do the motion, so long as I put it out there and then everybody can chop
Can-
it up.
Paul, can you put this picture up, the one with the landscaping? Please? Yeah, can you do that one? You can't do that one by itself. Can you enlarge it enough where it's, yeah, there you go. Okay, because it's a little different than the picture we have here. Staff. That's
So that's what he proposed.
Photoshopped, yep.
And Mr. Copeland, you're comfortable with that, correct?
Yeah, I'm thinking now, though, what Mr. Rankin said about making sure that it's opaque all times of the year, this may not be the best approach. It may require doing those Arbor V-Days. I think I understand what the objective is, which is to screen it 100% up to the top so that you can't see through.
Okay. And that's enforceable?
I would believe so.
Under
You
306
know, I'm gonna
I
just,
mean, it's hard to,
you
it's
know.
hard to do, I know where you're going. It's hard to say, okay, he's gonna play it this specific variety or something like that, but
Right, no,
like
and-
Bob kept it pretty general.
Right.
So that's a little more doable than saying he's gonna plant, this
'Cause-
type of variety, because we may or may not know what that is.
And I don't.
We don't have a
I think he's-
horticulturist on staff here?
I think he crafted that as well as he could, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you right now, because I'm a pretty good predictor of the future. But the Frankens are gonna be calling you about the 25th of January, telling you that they can see his solar panels. I can tell you that right now. So, with that in mind,
Well, and it's kind of, like the motion said, right? It's up to the property owner to craft something that complies with the condition, correct?
Yeah.
Right, if I could say, in the
I
course of
think
this.
you're trying to craft, personally, I think you're trying to craft, I appreciate what you're all trying to do. I think you're trying to craft smoke and mirrors that's not gonna ultimately, in practicality, be enforceable, but that's my opinion.
Okay.
Go ahead, Rob.
No, if you take a look at 307.09, we are allowed to condition the granting of variances for these things that, so long as we're not giving them a non-permissible use. And I think and the wordsmithing is certainly open to any
Oh,
modification.
I don't do that any better than I landscape.
So
So,
what I'm saying is that I believe that what's the alternative? The alternative is to strictly enforce the regulation, which I think, I believe is also a misuse of our authority, because there are mitigating factors that could prevent us from having to strictly enforce the regulation. So, my motion is welcome amendments on it, but I believe if we put down, I think the burden, there are many burdens that Mr. Copeland is gonna have.
oh, absolutely.
And I think the least burdensome for him is to making sure the back of that solar panel is, I like your word, opaque,
Well, and I
year
think-
round,
I
and that's
think-
his burden.
I think that goes back to my earlier, much earlier, an hour ago statement where I said whether it's here or whether it's 30 feet farther south,
It'll
you're
look
still
exactly
gonna
the
see
same.
the same thing.
Yeah, but the problem is we're in that land, we're in that moment where he's in violation, so
Oh,
we either have
no,
to.
I agree with
And
that.
to your one point, if a neighbor does call, that's on Mr. Copeland, and if they prove that they didn't comply with this, I'll be the first to vote to
I
remove it.
guess my whole point is, and like I said, we've done this before, and it's been a while. I don't know what compliance looks like.
You know what,
To a level of specificity, obviously, I mean, 100% coverage, that's,
Was that the motion?
the
100%
motion
coverage?
is that some form of landscaping or permitted use within the regulations, that it covers the entire back up to the top of this line here.
and
I
he
say
mentioned
top,
that
right.
if it requires a new zoning, he has to get that as well. So if it's a fence and he needs to get a permit for that, then he also has to get the
Right.
permit and put a fence up.
Right.
So 100% coverage year round.
No variance, right?
Oh, I don't think so. The fence wouldn't constitute a variance, would it?
No,
Yeah, but see,
it's,
for
it's
us,
far
we don't- I
enough
don't
from
think
the,
we
it's
get
far
to-
enough.
But
It
it's
should-
in, but it's in the easement.
Staff?
I don't believe, well, a fence does require a permit.
Variance.
Huh?
He said variance.
No, well, no. Okay, then here's what I would suggest that we amend that motion to include the potential of a fence that would be a barrier to that,
A natural.
natural or unnatural. Vinyl, natural, cedar, I don't know.
Yeah, I just didn't want to get down into saying this.
I don't either,
And it-
but
and
you
it- all I'm
guys went
saying is
on the
if it-
ride.
That's what I'm saying, is that he has to cover the back of that, and if it requires a permit, all permits need to be obtained, and if that permit requires a variance, he's got to go down that path.
And whether or not Mr. Copeland follows through with that is not, the onus isn't on us for that.
Right.
We can
No,
give forth what, you know, our,
We have to
Judgment
rule
on the
on
matter.
this, and if it comes
Right.
back, we roll on the
Absolutely.
next.
then
No,
that'll be a whole
I-
different situation, as long as you
I'm-
understand that, which
I'm
obviously.
really aware of that, so, yeah. Again, I don't want to see this case again, but
is it from the edge of the right-of-way?
33 feet and 50 feet.
yeah, he's going to be coming back to that fence permit like that. Right, okay, so that's
You're gonna
why
want
I
100%
suggest
coverage.
That if you're going to do that motion, that you include the potential for a fence. That would be my suggestion.
That was in there.
Yeah,
Was it?
It was in there.
landscaping or fencing, so long as.
Or fence.
Or fencing, so long as it needs, but if it needs a permit, that has to be obtained.
Okay.
And make sure you check how far it is.
Okey dokey. I'm just one vote, so don't go by me.
Can I take a stab at?
I wish you would. Why not? Everybody else
I've done
has.
all my damage for the evening.
I move that we amend the motion to include this replacement condition, that within 1 year of approval of this motion, applicant must screen entire rear view of solar array with evergreen plant material at a minimum of 6 feet in height or a fence of 6 feet in height.
You know, I think there's a little common
or both.
sense there.
That works for me.
Yeah.
All right. Then I guess at that point, are you guys ready for me to call the roll?
Yes.
Perfect.
Can you hold on?
Yeah.
Mark,
Yeah.
I'll second that.
yeah, re-second that. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. You guys are easy when it gets to be about 9 o'clock, aren't you? Okay. Mr. Boone,
Yes.
Mr. Christian,
Yes.
Mr. DeRose,
Yes.
Mr. Hanson.
Yes?
Chair votes yes. Boy, I just hope you guys, I like your amendment. That's what
Thank you.
pulled me across the finish line. So there you go, Mr. Copeland. Good luck. You've got a standard you got to live with, so.
I don't intend to be back.
This isn't a room you necessarily
we don't
want to
want you
visit
back.
more than once. Okay, and at that point, at 8:50, we will, the hearing is closed. And I think at this time, we have no other business. No, there's one other thing I do want to mention to the board, is that we've been talking, some of the alternates probably aren't aware, is that we have a rules of procedure. We've been talking about making them compliant with, yeah, if we could get you guys, hello, if we could get you guys to move that way, because we're still in session. Thank you. Thank you for coming out and thank you for your comments. Okay, we've been talking about the rules of procedure and updating them because it's been a while since we've updated them. They're like 5 years old, I think we did. Well, first of all, we wanted them to be similar to those for the zoning commission, which I think is a good idea. But I also don't want to call a special meeting to do them like we did 5 years ago. So zoning is in the process of updating their rules of procedure. And so what I want to do is somewhere around the end of the summer, hopefully they'll get through the process, then we can see what they've done, and then we can take it from there and hopefully have a quick application and do that at the same time rather than everybody come out for a special meeting. The last thing I want to do is drag you guys out here for a special meeting.
And I still have one,
Oh, good, I was off.
electronic,
Oh, yeah, right.
so
And
we get
like I
that
said,
one.
it's been 5 years, and I think that it's, yeah, 2018. So, okay, at that,
So you want us to get you all a copy then of
Yes.
what the zoning commission has kind of drafted and,
I would prefer, yeah, whatever they do.
but Paul said he thought they've, motioned to adopt, so.
Okay, if they, whatever, yeah, that would be
We'll,
fine.
we'll verify where they're at in the situation and then,
Okay.
like, get you what they
I
have.
don't think it's gonna be a long process like it was before.
Do you want Joe to go through the ones for the zoning, or for the BZA and see what, because he's pretty good about, the process and what he know, like, through the years, what he should add.
Yeah, I think, yeah, because like I said, I want to make this as painless as possible. I don't think it needs to be a big production. But it's something we probably should, we've been talking about it for a couple of years.
And we already have an well, today was the deadline, and we have an application for July, so. Yeah. So it'll be my birthday, so y'all bring me a card.
Yeah, fence or solar panel or patio.